Russell, what is your prediction for 2024?
2024, a lot of people have been talking up in the last couple of weeks, mainly because the freight rates have moved in a very positive direction. And most of this is all built around the supply side because of the congestion, not the congestion, but the problems with the canals and the Hutu rebels coming off Yemen, and the Panama Canal, which is low in terms of the water coming through and therefore the traffic coming through. But when you actually look at real dry cargo demand, for example, we actually can forecast that actually be a slight decline in 2024, and this is mainly because of the coal situation that's changed. With all the other dry cargoes, it's there or thereabouts in a very similar place, but because the coal is forecast to decline from last year, then this is why we think the actual demand will fall, but the capacity of the ships is going to be used up because all the ships will be traveling further. So therefore, we predict a very strong freight market. But if you wanted to know what was actually happening in terms of the real demand for cargo, then we think overall there'll be a slight decline in 2024.
Okay, so you're predicting a strong freight market for dry bulk, as others have, but you see coal as the big mover to the downside. What makes you so confident?
We've analysed every cargo from all the main countries that export those cargoes by all the specific industries. So we've noted all the tolerances within them, and we've looked at industry leading forecasts for each of those particular sectors. And when we look at all of that data, we can see that for most commodity groups there is a slight positive growth, be it the agriculture, probably fairly balanced for iron ore, particularly some of the ores and minerals, particularly things like alumina. There's coming out of Guinea. Those things are all very positive and growing. So when you kind of put the whole picture together, there's a lot of kind of positive growth. But the thing that's flipping the market is the coal, and it was that gave us a 5% growth in 23, because there was a lot more coal being imported into China. Now, when we look at 2024, we think, well, are we going to get a similar amount of coal? But there's a lot of things have changed in the last year. So China has upgraded its renewable capacity quite considerably for wind and solar. It's likely to get more power through in its sort of hydropower, which is about 10% of their whole sort of infrastructure. That's come on a bit stronger. So when you kind of put all these factors together, then you can see that it's very much in the balance. And the other thing to point out really is that China has consumes about 4 billion tons of coal, and the import requirement is only about sort of, I think last year was 350 million tons, which was 8.75%. Now, if that 8% became 7% or it came up to 9%, then it can make that 1% shift can make about 40 million tons of cargo. So therefore, the conditions of the weather, the conditions of the power demand within China, whether the state of industry, all these factors are coming into the mix, which make it very hard to forecast. So I think what we do know is that it's difficult to predict. We can look at kind of seasonality of coal, and it's normally the latter part of the year which is the stronger. But we can also look at the consumption of electricity in the Chinese grid, and we can look at the weather conditions. And if it's, for example, a very hot summer, then people are using their air conditioners, and then all of a sudden there's a lot more higher demand for electricity. And but then with that good weather, they should get the payback with solar. So there's a lot of things in the balance. But overall, we're not expecting a a surge of power that's required that we saw last year and this year, even though the winter has been harder. We're expecting the system to cope with it. So our base forecast will show this coal decline, and therefore we shouldn't see any overall dry cargo growth next year. But if things change in the year, we will be changing our forecast to reflect that. And it will be the coal demand that will throw it into positive if there is an upside there. But as it happens, because there is so much constrictions on the supply side, then I think people will be less worried about the demand side and more focusing on, where ships are routing now with the two canals that have come out.
35 to 40 million tons of coal is obviously a massive swing then. So with that being said, if your prediction comes to fruition, what are the implications to the shipping markets?
The wider implication of the coal dropping out will mainly harm the Panamax and Capesize segment the most. They're the two segments that would carry a lot of the coal, and what we're seeing at the minute also worth noting is a lot of the coal has been coming from Russia. So a lot of it's very sort of short haul at the minute, because Russia's been struggling to sell its coal elsewhere, and China being quite a relatively near neighbour. They rail a lot of their coal right across the Russia to the Pacific side and then take it down in ships. But then some of it then comes over the border. So a lot of the coal is rather kind of short haul, probably more the Panamax side. So if as the capacity adjusts, then you're going to see probably Indonesia and Russia being able to then switch the balance. The longer haul stuff from further afield will probably be less in play. The other thing worth noting as well, that's happening on a different style of coal, that's the coking coal. A lot of that comes from Mongolia, which is directly north of China and can be roaded or railed. And they've been working really hard on building the infrastructure on the road and the rail. And so where China has imported a significant volume of coking coal over the years, we expect this to be declining as well in 2024 because of the improvements they've made into those infrastructure. So a lot of sort of things are sort of conspiring, be it geopolitical events and general infrastructure improving, that there'll be kind of less demand for sea travel of coal to China specifically.